Good morning and welcome to NBC6 Voices. I'm Jawan Strader. The recent revelation of Wendy Williams' health struggles is shining a light on the disorders of dementia and aphasia. Joining me this morning to talk more about these disorders and the impact on our community are Dr. Delvina Thomas. You've seen her on the show before, who is board certified in psychiatry and neurology, and Regina Plaza, who is caring for her mother as she struggles with dementia. Thank you both for joining me on Voices this morning.
Of course, of course.
Yes, and Regina, I can't wait to hear your story, and a lot of us out there can relate to it. But Dr. Delvina, let's begin with you. Explain what dementia is and the difference between it and Alzheimer's disease.
Okay, so dementia is a general term. It's an umbrella term that describes something that can happen as a result of certain diseases. There are between 80 and 90 diseases, Jawan, that can cause dementia. Dementia is a result of brain damage. The brain is not functioning, cells are not communicating, cells are damaged, and therefore certain things result. It manifests as issues with thinking, with remembering things, and also with processing or being able to reason or make decisions. And in addition to that, people lose the ability to be independent, and it interferes with their daily functioning. Wow. The most common form is Alzheimer's dementia. That's the one most of us know about.
Yes.
Commonly called old-timers, but it's Alzheimer's dementia. There's also vascular dementia. There's Lewy body dementia. Wow. There's alcohol-induced dementia. There's Parkinson's dementia. So some of these different types of dementias are brought on by certain types of lifestyles that lead to chronic illnesses that then cause the damage to the brain. So things like high blood pressure and elevated blood sugar are a part of that, and then certain dementias are genetically linked. So there's all different reasons and etiologies for causing the damage to the brain, which then results in the dementia.
All right, and Regina's sitting next to you. Regina, your mother has dementia. Share your story a little bit with us.
Okay. In the very beginning, we saw Mom quiet. We saw Mom crying and not knowing why she was crying. And
Did you blow it off? Did you take it seriously in the beginning?
I didn't really take it serious, but my daughter, she said, Mom, when you get back home, take Grandma to a doctor. Something's going on with Grandma. My daughter noticed something was strange.
She noticed it.
Yes.
You know, because we could kind of blow it off. I mean, I didn't know my mother had a form of aphasia. I'm like, Mom, she's like, I can't get my words out. I said, Mom, I'm on television and I can't get my words out all the time. Yeah. And sure enough, the doctor said, no, she has aphasia. And I didn't even know anything about that. So going back to your mom, you took her to the doctor?
Yes, so she was 76 at the time, and this was before she turned 77. I got her to the geriatrics doctor. One of my colleagues at work told me, take your mom to a geriatrics doctor and have her assessed. They assessed her, and they diagnosed her with a mild cognitive disorder.
And can you tell me how difficult it was to hear that and how she responded to that news?
She didn't take that news too well, I want to say, and I was like, what is that? And so I had to go and I had to Google and I had to find out what a mild cognitive disorder was. And it said that it was something that happens to the brain and it could lead up to dementia. And so I was like, dementia? You know, and so I just started researching, and then I had to continue my mother's care with the geriatric, and the geriatric referred her to, they had an institute for neurology, and I was taking my mom to the institute, and one day my mom came from back there with the doctor, and she said, do not bring me back here.
Oh, wow.
She said, I feel like he's making me think I'm stupid. Because she was having a problem remembering things. And the assessment started out with, here's 3 things I'm going to ask you, Miss Judith: apple, orange, pear. And I'm going to come back and ask you these 3 things after I check you. So she gave her physical and everything. And then after the physical, she said, do you remember the 3 things that I asked you when you first sat down in my office? And Mommy couldn't remember.
Now, Dr. Delvina, is it true that dementia disorders strike women and African-American women more than men?
It is something that we're seeing in the studies. In general, dementia is more common in African Americans. And when you factor into women with our hormones, and especially women who enter menopause early, there are very good studies that suggest there's a connection between the fluctuating hormones that women have more of, like the estrogen and the progesterone that we don't see in men. Because of those changes, it's associated with the onset of dementia. So that's something that's still, those studies are ongoing.
And tell me about the books that we have here on the side, and I recognize this person over here on the cover of the book. Tell me about these.
Yeah, so brain sleep and brain food. The food that we eat can affect us. You and I have done a show on the brain food.
That's right.
If you're not eating properly, it can lead to certain diseases that can then lead to dementia. So elevated blood sugar or diabetes, elevated blood pressure or hypertension, that's brought about typically because of poor dietary intake, as well as lack of exercise. And lack of exercise has been associated and connected to the risk of developing dementia. Brain sleep, not getting adequate, good sleep, not sleeping continuously through the night, having multiple nighttime awakenings is also associated with cognitive dysfunction. And that's what we heard from Ms. Plaza. It starts as cognitive dysfunction and then it progresses into dementia.
And tell us about aphasia, because we touched on it. Tell me more about that, because that's what my mother had, aphasia. We heard about Bruce Willis, Wendy Williams. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so aphasia is another term. It describes a communication problem. So that communication can be a problem with how we're interpreting or comprehending what we hear, and it can also be a problem or difficulty in saying what you want to speak. So maybe the person is thinking it, but they can't verbalize it and put it into words and then be able to speak it. So it can be a combination of both of those, and it could be one or the other.
Regina, your mother today, how's mom doing?
Mom is holding on. She's holding on. Every now and again, you may get a word out of her. It shocks me. Yeah. She's been very quiet, though. She used to be feisty and verbal, but now she's just quiet, and she has a peace with herself. Yeah. And I make myself known so that she knows I'm there. I love on her. I talk to her. I let her know it's me, Regina, but I call her Miss Judy because she responds to Miss Judy. She doesn't respond to Mommy. Wow. She responds to Miss Judy, and she remembers. She knows that's her name.
Does she know that you're her daughter?
I don't think she does at times. I really don't think she does at times.
And that's hard on you?
It's been hard because I have my mother, yet I don't have her, so to speak. You know, but we've been best friends all of our lives, and so
Amen.
I do my best as a daughter and a caregiver.
There are a lot of people going through what Regina's going through, Dr. Delvina. For those people out there that feel that there's no hope, like they don't know what to do because their mother or their father is going through this, what can they do? And where can they go? Where can they get that help? Where can they talk to people like Regina, who is sharing her story with us this morning? Where can they go?
Well, the first thing I want to say, Jawan, is that when you have a family member with this challenge, it's good to support them and not to question them or get angry with them, because sometimes that's a common reaction from family members when a family member can't remember something, or they get upset, or they feel they've been accused of some type of wrongdoing because of the inability to remember. So just remember to stay calm, control your own emotions, because it is a big challenge. Remain in prayer. Prayer is such a big thing, and take care of your own mental health and wellness by doing things that helps you to balance the stress. Now, as far as support groups, there are plenty of support groups for caregivers. There are support groups that are specific for folks who are dealing with a parent who has an issue with cognitive dysfunction or dementia. And you can call places like the Alzheimer's Association, who can give you a list. There's also NAMI.org. You can go on the website and pull up a list of support groups, and also accessing things like AARP, going to Silver Sneakers. These things may not seem like they're very medical, but they have a lot of resources and a lot of information for folks to help them fill in that knowledge gap and to connect them to the resources that they need.
Dr. Delvina, Regina, thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for this all-important information that so many of us out there need. I'm sure someone watching this morning is going to take that information, and this is food for the soul for them. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.